What's up, everybody? It's your girl, Goddess C, and I'm here with another podcast episode. Welcome, welcome back. If you are from the tribe, welcome to the Holistic and Spiritual AF podcast. I am always glad to hear you, always glad to see you. And if you're new to this podcast, welcome, welcome. We talk about all sorts of things like healing generational trauma, ancestral wisdom, metaphysics, and I have guests on the show who also bring their expertise as well. So it's never a dull moment over here, especially now that we have the guests. So you definitely want to make sure that you're following me on the respective platforms. This podcast is available on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, as well as YouTube, and pretty much anywhere that you get your podcast episodes. Okay. So you don't want to miss anything. You want to make sure you're checking out the past episodes as well. And before we get into it, I always like to get into the business to get that out of the way. You can find me everywhere on social media at Holistic and Spiritual AF, and that's and spelled out. I'm on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, Substack as Medium as well. I'm kind of like trying to see if I which one of those I want to actually go after. So if you like newsletters and things like that, definitely stay connected because I also have classes that I've also started incorporating. Last class was the Back to Balance, a journey through the chakras. It was a very intense and powerful class. And so if you're interested in those types of things, just make sure you follow me. And I'll actually make sure I have all this information down in the description as well, because that course is now available for sale for a small fee, and you can actually have that. And we ended that with a very powerful meditation that you can use over and over again to begin to start to incorporate that balance in your life that's so important for that mind, body, spirit connection that I always talk about. All right, now that I've gotten all that good stuff out of the way, today's episode is actually going to be a little different than what I normally have. I usually am the one that is the host and I'm interviewing my guests, but this one actually is an episode of me being interviewed by Knowledge Born Allah, who is the host of the Do the Knowledge Radio. You can find his information on YouTube. Of course, I'll have that down in the description as well. And this was like I said, it was really nice to be able to do this and have this connection with him and to really kind of talk about my journey a lot longer than I do on the podcast episode. So, without further ado, let's go ahead and get into it.
Right. That sounded like that was part of the show, like we planned it. Okay, like the impact of the energy was so powerful that it
It
knocked my
was.
internet off, and boom, I had to go on my phone. Then I had to get off my phone, and now we are here. Peace and blessings. Welcome to another episode of Knowledge Radio. Place where knowledge is born. It's your host, Knowledge Born Allah, and we see the power of this special guest by special request here. Okay, beseech Almighty God. And she was like, "Boy, if you don't go sat down somewhere," I was like, "Yes, ma'am." So I went and sat down somewhere, and in the process of sitting down, I heard a voice hearken unto me and said, "Try again. Try again right now. Okay, try again in this moment." So I beseech this wonderful, beautiful, magical goddess for an opportunity to talk with her, to pick her brain, and for her to give us some ancestral wisdom. So it becomes my honor and
Ooh.
privilege at this time to introduce to some, present to others, one who helps us by the spiritual hand out of the darkness and depths of our shadow back into the light of illumination and elevation. The one, the only one of our spirit guide oracles here,
Oh.
Goddess Z. Welcome, 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 welcome,
Oh,
welcome, welcome,
wow.
welcome. All right. Welcome.
All
How are
right.
you?
Thank you. I'm doing good, and I'm doing even better after that, powerful intro. Thank you so much for having me on the show. It is an honor to be here.
I am definitely glad. I am definitely glad that you are here because you right here at the appointed time, okay?
Yep,
And the
absolutely.
last dragon, he was like, just tell that sucker to be at the designated time in the designated place. So we're
That's
definitely
right.
here at the appointed time. So yes,
Absolutely.
this journey of tapping into spirit, tapping into source, tapping into your ancestral wisdom begins where, how, how did you first perceive it? And what was
Yes.
that process like for you?
Oh, I love it. Wow. I wish that I could say that it was, like I just, ended up getting to this place, but it definitely was it was a ride. It was a journey, put it that way. And I talked about this briefly on my podcast, Holistic and Spiritual AF. I got a chance to reflect on my journey, and a lot of times I say I've been on the path now for like 2 decades, but really, in hindsight, I go all the way back now. I go back to that little girl, who was having experiences and had spiritual gifts that weren't necessarily being nurtured, but really they were. So for me, it goes all the way back to being a young little girl in a household that there was a lot of trauma, a lot of lack of expression or proper expression, and it caused me to be a very internal little girl. So I was always very in my own inner realm without even knowing what that was. And so I had this connection with these beings, these entities, which I later found out was my ancestors and my spirit guides. And they were very close to me, and I was very connected to them. And at an early age, they were kind of guiding me, because they knew it was almost like they knew this one's going to be hard. Like, it's going to be a ride, but we're going to get you through to that other side because. This is the purpose. This is why you came here. And so I was very connected to them. And I learned one of my first spiritual gifts with them was learning how to connect with them telepathically. I love that song that I just heard. That was everything. I want to get that when this is over. But they taught me how to communicate with them telepathically. And looking back at that, that was a very powerful gift to be able to express at a young age. And so I walked with them and I talked with them. And when I was feeling sad, they were there. And when I was young and I still was like playing and stuff, it was age appropriate how I dealt with my spirit guides. They would play with me because my brother and sister were about 7 and 9 years older than me. So they were kind of off doing their own thing. And I was kind of like an only child in my little inner realm. And I had them. So I would play by myself, play dolls by myself, and play school by myself. And they would be there with me just the whole journey. And I learned how to speak with them telepathically. So I went on, and I also was in a very religious household, a very religious, Christian based kind of household where there was no talk about any outside spirituality of any kind. And it just didn't sit right with my spirit. Like, to me, it just seemed like I wanted to ask questions. I've always been a seeker, even at a young age. So I would ask questions and I didn't like the answers I was receiving. The answers I was getting was kind of like, don't ask questions, you just believe. And I was like, just believe? Like, what is that? Like, that didn't make sense to me. And I couldn't
Uh,
understand the concept that even at a young age. So, like, at 7 years old, I made a conscious decision to not do what they was doing. I was like, I'm not doing this. Something about my spirit was like, if you can't answer questions, like if you can't explain to me how you know stuff and you just telling me to just believe something and do it because you said so, that never worked for me. And so I did my time. That's what I called it. Like, I knew, like, my spirit was like, well, you young, you live in this house, you got to do what your moms and them do. And that's just what I did. But I never internalized that. And I never got baptized. And that was like, to me, that was my sense of spiritual freedom to be like, nah, we're not just signing up for something just because you told me to. And that was like the one freedom I had in that household and in that religion, was that they couldn't force you. You had to come to it on your own. And that's what I wanted the journey to be. Like, to me, I look back at that and I'm like, that's powerful as a little kid to, like, I had to be connected to my spirit self still. And my ancestors were guiding me to kind of just be like, it's still my journey, but I had enough inner knowledge to know that something was off with that. And I continue to go through things. And plus, they, would always say, well, if you just believe this way, things will get better. And I didn't believe that either. I just was going to have my own journey and experience. So I went on to live the life. And right at the top of like my 20s, shit hit the fan. Like, life really got real, like immediately, like straight out of high school. And I had some pretty traumatic things happening in my own life based on my own choices and decisions. Because I was not, whatever. I just was living a life. And I ended up having my girls at the same time. And I ended up facing legal trouble. And like, it was just like everything right out of high school. And I'm like, what is going on? And I ended up getting into alcohol because alcohol seemed to numb what the pain that I was feeling. So I was already had a lot of trauma that I had experienced and didn't know how to get out of it. Um, and so I was self-medicating with that. And I look back at it now, and it was my ancestors and God and the universe leading me all along the way. And I ended up being put in a position where it seemed extremely scary. Like my life is just going to hell already. And I had a encounter with a therapist, because clearly I'm talking to people about what's wrong with you. Like, what is wrong with you? And I'm so grateful for her because she maybe she was or wasn't supposed to do that. But she said, have you ever tried meditation? What about yoga? And she introduced me to a different way of being. And so I was willing to try anything because before I was doing alcohol to get out of my mind and body. And so with meditation, I was like, wow, like my first experience with meditation, it was a guided meditation, like recording. And I was just like, wow, like, there's something different, out there. And I knew that as a kid, it had to be something else. And the yoga really helped me to start to get in tune with my body, with my breath, so all those foundational basic things. And it made me feel better. It just, my overall sense of well being, even on a physical level, was better. And then, of course, I felt mentally, emotionally, and spiritually like there's a possibility of living a different way. And so that's kind of really how it started. My ancestors, of course, and spirit guides was there through the whole thing, through the whole thing, always giving me these, guidance, these little voices of try this, and never judging me and never making me feel bad when I made my own choices and decisions. I just would get the lesson. That's life. You just go get that lesson. You're gonna learn one way or another. It could either be hard or it could be, a talking to versus a lashing. So yeah, so I kind of got into that. Meanwhile, this whole time this is going on, because I didn't have anybody teaching me about who I was as a black woman, as um a woman of African descent, and I didn't have none of that going on. So I was getting a lot of my information from New Age people, and so I still think that was beneficial because it was a lot of the foundational stuff. Anybody can do meditation. Meditation goes from many different cultures and teachings. Yoga, same thing. So I was getting a lot of that, and I had always known my ancestors to be spirit guides because that's what they call them. Over there they call them spirit guides and angels. And so I was like spirit guides. I always stuck with that, and I was doing a lot of healing, utilizing those things. I ended up being a massage therapist. Well, let me backtrack. So yeah, I was working on myself, doing a lot of healing there. And at that time, I got married. Like right after that whole self-destruction thing, meeting the therapist, I ended up getting married, and my life calmed down a lot. So now I'm like this family woman, and it gave me a lot of time to be able to work on myself internally. And that's at that time I had a lot of trauma coming up, like a lot of stuff coming to the surface that needed to be dealt with. And so I was working on that through healing and here and there a therapist, but mostly it was energy healing and work. So my husband, fast forward to my husband transitioned. He had cancer. And I went on another journey that was like wild. Like, first of all, the grief with that was like something I can't even describe, unbearable. Being thrust into being a single mother. But I had some tools at that point, and I go to a different phase of the journey. And at this time, I start to hear my spirit saying, you need to get in touch with your African roots. You need to get in touch with your African roots. Because I started going to these new age classes and I knew more than them and I would be asking them questions and they couldn't tell me. I would be like, well, what about this? I'm experiencing this. Or anytime we're going through some kind of breathing thing, I'm experiencing this, like, wow. And the rest of them are kind of getting like 1% of what I'm experiencing. And they could not give me the answer. I recognize that because they didn't have access to the information. I know that today. They were teaching something that didn't necessarily originate from their culture. So they don't have all of the code, and so whatever, my ancestors were going to lead me anyway. So they were like, you need to get in touch with your African roots. I'm like, how? How do I do that? And I ended up going on another journey. I ended up going from Facebook. I ended up connecting to this to the Yoruba culture, Ifa. I mean, I got thrown right in it. It was like from you should go here to boom, you like in the middle of a ceremony. Like, and I'm like, wow. So I got like firsthand experience and I started learning a lot. And during this time, I got a crash course of it's as if my DNA was being activated. And I learned so much information in like 6 months. Like I learned a lifetime of information in 6 months. And it started out with somebody asking me, "What do you know about melanin?" I didn't even know about melanin. That's the shift. From I was smart, highly spiritual, very connected, but when he said, "What do you know about melanin?" I was like, "Melanin." I was like, "That's the stuff that gives you the pigmentation to your skin." Like the basic science answer. And he was like, "Yeah, but what do you really know about melanin?" And I actually wrote a piece on Substack about this called Baby She Woke. So if you get a chance to read it, check it out. It's kind of cool. Um, and he was like, "I want you to check out Dr. Laela Africa." And I was like, okay, because I'm a seeker. If you tell me to check out something that I don't know, I got to know what it is that you know that I don't know. So I went home immediately and I looked up Dr. Laela Africa, and it was that video, What is Melanin? And I watched that like a 3 hour type thing. And I'm sitting here with my jaw drop, like, what? Like, what do you mean? Like, like, how could this be all of this? So now I'm really going down the rabbit hole and I'm a seeker. So I started, looking up different types of teachers. My spirit was being led to different places. So I remember bumping into Mfundishi Jehudi Mas, and I jump around a lot. Like that when I get into stuff, I jump around. I go where I need to go. So Mfundishi Jehudi Mas was like throwing me back with this whole Kemet stuff and how he knew it. He's walking the people through the museum and teaching them what it says and all of that. And I'm like, wow, what else is there? Then somebody gave me random. I don't think anybody else has learned from this guy, but Dr. Phil Valentine, Book of the Earth, all freaking 6 or 8 volumes it was. I sat there and watched that thing straight, and I was like, then all of a sudden I started opening metaphysical things up inside of me, because I was always metaphysical in the beginning. I went meditation, yoga, crystals, metaphysics. So all of this stuff was in my DNA all along, and it was being cultivated and nurtured. But there was a healing process that had to happen first in order to kind of get access to it. So this was all happening, and I'm learning like, wow, I'm like, everything's a lie. You know what I'm saying? I'm like, everything they told me is a lie. I'm like, I got to know more. And I'm learning more and more. And then, I went from there into getting into or conscious about um, police brutality. So now I took a detour a little bit. Now I'm looking like what they doing to our people today, and I found myself at, yeah, right. And I found myself getting angry. You know what I'm saying? The anger and resentment was taking over me about what was going on in our people still to this day. And I ended up kind of going down a rabbit hole of that and getting thwarted from the mission, right? My ancestors just wanted me to know about what was going on, to have the knowledge and awareness, not to get caught up in the anger side of it, because you can't do anything like that. Okay. So I had a brief little period where I was just mad about everything. Um, and I'm watching all of these videos over and over, back to back, and it started kind of pulling me from that. And then I ended up getting back into where I needed to be on the other side. So I connected with a community in South Florida. a black community that was a mixture of all of us. So you had a lot of Ross in there, you had 5 percenters in there, we just come together as a community no matter what you were doing, healers and all of that stuff. So I learned a tremendous amount from the elders there. I learned about, from the Ross, I learned about what to eat, how to feed the body properly, and I started my plant based journey. So I started my plant-based journey. I've been on that for 10 years now, almost 11. I eat why I look so good, y'all. Like I be trying to tell these ladies, especially if you want to stay fine, they be like, "Oh, I gotta have my chicken. I gotta have." I'm like, "Do you want to stay fine? If nothing else, do it for the physicality of what you gonna look like, you know." And so, like, I love that part, and not to mention all the other benefits that come with it. But if that's where you got to start, just think about that. But I started my plant-based journey and that began to open things up on a whole nother level. All the while I'm still doing my own healing. I'm getting initiated and stuff. I'm getting certifications and things. I end up going the tantra walk, you know what I'm saying? And getting initiated in level one of that. That's like a yoga on a whole nother level. And then I ended up also getting my level one supreme science qigong certification. Qigong, absolutely love it. Amazing. And everything that I do has to do with energy because that's a part of the type of healer that I am. I help people. I facilitate healing in other people, and the healing work that I do is different. It's hard to describe. I'm a Reiki master, all those different things, but really what it does is it just kind of changes something in the frequency of the individual to tap them into who they are truly. So I guess some people would call it pranic healing or quantum healing, theta healing, whatever. My ancestors, we just call it energy healing. Of course, I got to learn about my ancestors along the way, and I was like, That's who that was the whole time." So I continued the journey. I never quit. Once I started seeking, I continued to seek, and that led me to really just being connected. At that point, I knew who I was. I knew who I was as a Black woman, as a a woman of African descent. I knew who I was as an Indigenous woman. I know where my folks come from. My mom's side of the family is Indigenous Native Americans. My dad's side of the family, he's Caribbean, so that's where the African side comes from me. Because he knows for a fact about his grandfather, who was a lot older than his grandmother, was brought over from Nigeria to the island. So he was brought over as a slave. And so these things I'm able to tap into, and I started creating a tree. And of course, I'm teaching this to my girls along the way. And then I ended up journeying into hoodoo. That was like, wow. Like it was like, okay, now you know a lot and you spent a lot of time focusing on your African side. They was like, you need to know about your indigenous Native American side, your Black Native American side. And so when I got over here on my mom's side, that's what they was doing. And I remember my great grandmother and the relationship we had. Um, and hoodoo is an amazing thing that I still practice today. That's intertwined in everything that we do. And so I ran my mouth, but for a long time. But your girl has been on the journey for a long time, and I had to clear a tremendous amount. I had to go through a lot of healing. I had to break a lot of cycles in my family, starting with me. There's not a lot of times we could do about the ones that come before us, other than be the example. But I have two daughters today, and I have a grandbaby, a brand new little grandbaby. That he's coming into something different. I'm gonna breathe and let you speak.
You ain't got to breathe, okay? I just let them know. I want them to know because a lot of the time, as you know, when we deal with people, they see the finished product and then they think as
Yes.
if there was no journey. So they're like, "Oh, it must be nice in your world," and blah blah. All of that, right? Because those are the thoughts that we're connected to. So
Right.
because we don't give them space, that doesn't mean that they don't show up. They show up. You know, in that space where we look at imposter syndrome and am I supposed to be
Mhm.
here? Is this supposed to be me? So it's like, all right, bam. So somebody else is going to say those thoughts that they're deep seated, right? So you're like, all right. the preparation for this walk and this path and everything that you're doing is what you were
Yes.
prepared for, right? So you can have an
Okay.
understanding of it now, right? But while you was going through it, you was like, what is this? What is this? What is this?
Yes.
Right? Well, even that it was a couple fold. Ancestrally, there were some things that people before you they didn't take on. They passed the buck,
Hmm.
right? They passed the buck. They was like, I don't want none of that. Where Jesus at? Fix it, Jesus. And Jesus was like, I can only do so much, fam. It's like, all
Right.
right, well, we're gonna get us somebody else then, okay? And you was selected, right? You were elected, selected, right? So it's like, all right, bam, you the president. We have to
A
fix this
warrior
first,
goddess.
right? You know what I'm saying? Like, so you that part to heal your ancestry, redeem your ancestry, but also to prepare you for the people that you were going to meet, that you were going to have to be able to help. So all
Hmm.
of that working together in tandem because it's one existence. It ain't separate, right? So in the space of continuity, in order to be able to reach people, you have to be able to speak their language. And people know if you're BSing them or not, right? No,
Right.
no matter how much you dress it up, you might put a dashiki on it, a turban, a fez, a kufi, you might put a crucifix on it, whatever it is. If you're BSing, people know it. The ones who are
That's right.
supposed to know it, they know it. And the other ones, they just like, all right, well, whatever. It sounds good. All right, well, here go my money or whatever it is. So
Crazy, right?
in preparation for this walk, this warrior goddess walk, how are you a warrior goddess with no scars, right? You got scars. So you're like, oh no, I done been in battle, fam. So let's go.
Sure you want to
And
do
it was a
this?
battle of redemption,
That's
but it
right.
was also a battle of identification. So that space of identification for you to be able to speak a word to somebody and they'd be like, oh, yo, okay. Surely know what you're talking about, right? No, nobody in the AA meeting was never drunk before. They're not just up in there like, yeah, how's everybody doing? Like, no,
Just trying to
everybody
see
was
what y'all
there on
doing.
day zero, right? Everybody was there on day zero. So to be able to facilitate in the healing space, everybody gave you what they could too. That's the thing that you came to grips with. Everybody gave you what they could, and they gave you the best of it, whether it was the worst or the best, because that's subjective. They gave you every single thing that they could, right? Even
Right.
folks left you alone. They left you alone because that's the best thing that they could do for you. It's like, leave her alone. All right.
Hmm.
So your guides is like, get away from her. She's ours. You can't
Yep.
have her. None of y'all. Okay. I know all of y'all want her, right? From these paths that you're walking on, like, nah, she's ours. Get up out of here.
Yep.
But you had to choose. You had to choose. So regardless of what it was, the walk was you still had to choose those who had chosen you. So that was the process. So you were there, and the conscious shift. You come into some awakening. I've been lied to. I'm angry. I want to fight. And blah, blah, blah. Like you went through every metamorphosis of it. And then it's like, all right. And some folks get stuck there. They get stuck in
Yep.
every little space because whatever it is comfortable to them, but it wasn't for you. It's like, just look, this exists out here. All right, keep on going.
Right.
Like, what are you doing? Like, get up. You done fail? All right, get up. Come on, let's go. So to be in the space where you finally are where you are supposed to be is so remarkable. So that others can glean from that master class that you went through in that regard. So we're here at Hoodoo. It's October. So tell
Yay.
us about International Hoodoo Month and what it means and what's going on out here before we get into the writing and everything else.
Yes, yes, absolutely. Thank you for that. And you really hit the nail on the head with what you described, and before I talk about hoodoo, I do want to say that all of that I had to go through to get to a certain place of empowerment um, was what I chose. Like you said, they was like, if anybody can do it, Z can do it. Like send her down there. She not gonna die. We got her. We got her back. And I call it a world class, MVP spirit guide and ancestor team because, they need some credit too, like I say that all the time. But I also was promised that once I got to the other side, mastered some certain things, that life would be the complete opposite of that. Like I would have a journey that was absolutely amazing, where I was like creating karma in a different type of way, the total opposite of the trauma, but happiness, love, joy, peace, good relationships, and really, like you said, being able to give that to other people and have that same type of energy when people show up and they have a consultation and they're talking about things, and I'm not judging them. you know it's hard out here. If you're on this planet right now with all this stuff we got going on and all these distractions, for you to stay rooted and connected to your spirit self is not an easy task. I mean, so we all kind of like warrior classes right now being here. And it's just a matter of remembering who we are. So yes, with Hoodoo Heritage Month, I'll talk about what it means to me. First and foremost, I will say that hoodoo is a closed practice, and I'm gonna keep it sacred. That's something that my ancestors talked to me about. They was like, "Don't be out there teaching hoodoo." Like they was like, "This is for you." You know what I'm saying? Because people will ask and they try to dibble dabble with things, and that's not what it's for. But I will say, Hoodoo Heritage to me means just really revering my ancestors, which I do on a daily basis all the time. And for me, what they want me to do, they even told me, because I used to do altars and stuff for them. And they was like, we don't really, they were like, that's nice that you want to do altars, and we think that's wonderful. And that was what was necessary in the beginning when you need to keep that conscious contact. But what we want you to do is listen when we say something. You can honor us that way. We vibrated at a certain frequency. So they're taking me in a different direction, which they're like, practice hoodoo every day. Make sure you're practicing hoodoo every day. And so simple things that I do is, like when I clean my house, I make sure that I'm cleansing energy. I'm cleansing the negative energy out. I'm blessing the home, just back to the basics. When I'm taking a shower, it's a spiritual bath. It's a cleansing of sort. It's a revamping and re-energizing, making sure that I'm staying connected to my meditation, paying attention to my dreams and incorporating my dream journal. The direction that they really are calling me to is the herbal realm. I took a brief sabbatical from that because of whatever, but now they're like, we really want you to get in these herbs to incorporate that into your healing work that you do. I originally got into herbs for the magical components of it, but now they're like, it's time to get into the medicinal side. And I must admit and be honest that I'm being a little lazy because I know that's going to be work. That's like, school. Like they to sit there and get that. But I've got a book that I'd already started writing down my own remedies and stuff like that because I wanted to pass that down to my daughters. So that's where they're really trying to take me, but they want me connecting and just honoring them every day by and taking this time for Hoodoo Heritage Month to make sure that I'm practicing every single day something. And like I said, Hoodoo is so intertwined in everything that we do. We can create a ritual out of anything, and the main thing is really getting to know your ancestors and connect with them like that. And I had a year straight where I was doing hoodoo every single day. When my ancestors, when they got to a certain point where they was like, and once again, what is it about Facebook? Like, I'm not even on Facebook that much, but there was this video on there, and this guy, I came across this group, and the guy was in the group talking about the problem is you not paying attention to your ancestors. You don't have no altar up, and you wondering why bad things happening to you. You can't hear them, da 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 da. And I was like, it just shook me straight, and I was like, what? You right? And I just jumped up and I started doing it, and I got into doing hoodoo every single day for like a year, and that's when I got originally into the herbal realm, and it was a beautiful relationship to grow closer with them, more conscious with them. I was doing ancestral journaling. I was doing candle magic. I was doing, working with flame, just working with every element and seeing how interconnected it is with everything. I was doing a lot of nature, which I love anyway. And what I love about my ancestors is, once again, we still got that strong telepathic connection. Everything with them is about the ritual of doing it. So from if I'm doing an altar, or if I was doing an altar, it would be the from the thought and the intention of the altar to what I'm going to get to get the white cloth, to get the candle, to cleanse the candle, to pray over it, to run the cards, to this, the whole ashe and the energy of actually doing that ritual is what puts the energy in it and how potent it is. And so the actual setting it up and doing it, that part is like the easy part. It's the intention and the process of the ritual that makes the ritual, if that makes any sense. And a lot of times I don't speak, especially when I'm dealing with the herbs. I don't speak because the herbs only speak to me telepathically. So I have to be quiet. And that is another powerful spiritual realm that I was like, oh my God, we got dimensions and dimensions on top of dimensions right in our face. And we over here like don't even pay attention to it. I mean, the ocean, that's a whole nother freaking dimension, a whole nother spiritual realm that we are a part of. We know about metaphysics when it comes to up in the sky and the planets and the stars and the moons and all of that. But a lot of times we don't think about how vast and amazing the ocean is, or even the earth and how powerful it is. And so hoodoo is intertwined in everything. And if you are um, someone who is of African descent, Black, Indigenous, and you really want to explore that more, I would definitely say what I always say, connect with your ancestors. And they're like, but how? I'm like, if you're truly intentional about wanting to connect with your ancestors, they know that. But if there's any kind of fear and apprehension at all, they also know that too. So if just like you can ask me, how do I connect with my ancestors? When you're alone in a meditation, you can also do the same thing. It's a matter of doing the work. A lot of times, especially with hoodoo, hoodoo is all about doing the work. You're not going to get any benefit from hoodoo by trying to cheat or buy something. My ancestors are all about, they'll have me out in the woods getting something natural and nature based on what they told me to grab versus buy something from Amazon. So it's all about the work and it's all about connecting with them, and they're going to guide you. And your ancestors are going to be your first line of defense. And I always say that out in these spirit streets. So before you start trying to open portals up and try to be nosy and see what they doing over there, you need to have your ancestors. They're gonna have your back, and they're gonna be the ones you want to hear saying, "That's not for you." Leave that alone. Hey, you didn't do your protection. What are you doing? Never do anything without protecting yourself. Did you cleanse yourself after that ceremony with this person? All of those different things. You're going to learn the basics. They're going to teach you in a way that you can understand, that'll stick with you, that'll activate something in your DNA that's like, oh yeah, I remember this. Like, oh yeah, we do this. They like, yeah, girl. So that's the main thing I always say. And I think a lot of times people have so much fear about connecting with their ancestors, and that's really sad because, like I said the other day, my ancestors are my A1 since day one, and I have a better relationship with them than anybody on this planet. And like I said, we came like we was here to make some changes, and they was like, yeah, and you first. And then you could actually be of some use, because we can't have you out here alcohol dependent and cry angry all the time and think that you're going to be able to represent us. so don't be afraid of your ancestors, and if you do want to do something for Hoodoo Heritage Month, take the time to connect with them and grow that relationship, because it'll amaze you in ways that I couldn't possibly tell you. You would have to experience it.
Bars, okay?
She did it again.
She did it again. We love it, all right? So let's talk about your writing journey, okay? Talk
Yes,
about your
shall
writing
we?
journey. In your writing journey, your earliest recollection. What were the stories that you wanted to tell then versus the stories you wanted to tell now? And what's that writing journey been like for you?
That's a good one. Believe it or not, writing is like a latent talent in my DNA that was activated very recently. Um, in school, I was always really good with language arts, just naturally. And I just, back then we wrote with pencils. You know what I'm saying? So writing a paragraph was an ordeal. Writing 2 pages was like, who wants to do that, right? I'm lazy. Um, but I didn't really care for it, but I was good at it. I was like naturally good at it. It must be that artsy side of me. So fast forward all the way to like 2016. I was always a singer, that I've been doing since I was 3. People knew that, and I was, known for singing and stuff like that, but not writing. So 2016, I wrote some poems. I wrote a poem, and I went to a spoken word event, and I wish I still had those poems. Those poems got lost in the in the ethers in the internet somewhere. um and I did this event and got up there and did my little poem. It was called something about these feelings, something like that, and it was basically talking about the transformation and being at a crossroads from the old self to the new self. And everything that I do is always rooted in spirituality and holistics. That is who I am, like truly. And they went crazy. They was like, "Oh my God, how long you been writing?" and blah blah blah. And I wrote some other poems, and I wrote Black Magic Woman, and I wrote just some other different things. And I lost my poems, and I ended up that kind of like defeated me for a little bit. But once again, about 2 years ago, my ancestors, told me to write. I started writing these reflections, just little short, couple sentences, like reflective kind of inspirational type things. And I started texting them to people that I knew, and just trying to uplift people. And a lot of people was like, "Wow, you wrote that? That's like really powerful. Like, thank you for sending that to me, man. You send the right things at the right time." And then of course there was a few haters along the way, like, "Who does she think she is?" Like, and I was like, "Okay, you just don't get
Uh,
this. You don't get the energy no more, okay?" And so I did that for a while, and then once again, my ancestors was like, they told me to write. They told me to write the 5 stages of shadow work. I did a podcast episode, and a lot of times I speak from spirit. Spirit enters in, downloads happen, and I'm just speaking that. And so I listened back to that podcast, and I was like, damn, that should have been a book. I was like, we went in on that. And so they were like, yeah, make it a book. And so I was like, wow, okay. And so I wrote the 5 stages of shadow work. And I released that in May. I actually have it right here. I don't know if y'all can see that. Uh-oh. Hold on. Now you can see my screen ain't real. My background. Whatever. Anyway, you got to go to Amazon if you want to check it out. And the 5 stages of shadow work. It's a small book. It's a not like a thick book. It's a very packed and to the point, full of information. But it talks about the 5 stages of shadow work. It goes into detail as to thank you. And you got the journal. Oh,
hey, hey,
hey, look at you. I appreciate
hey,
you.
hey,
Thank you, knowledge.
hey.
So yeah, this book here is available on Kindle as well as paperback. I would always, me personally, I've always been a sucker for paperback. Now I did read as a kid. I was definitely a reader. So may not have been writing then, but I definitely was reading. So it talks about what shadow work is, because I think a lot of times people just throw around terms on social media,
Yes.
without actually knowing what they're talking about. Because
Mhm.
it's like trending. So let's say shadow work. Listen here, what I just described to you guys in my path and journey, that was shadow work, and I left out a lot of the chunks of the details of the stuff that I went through, and that was not easy. So to think that shadow work is light and love and fluffy, and you just get to the transformation side, sometimes it can take days, weeks, months, years, even depending on the severity of the trauma and the healing that's necessary. So, this actually, for somebody who is truly about getting into um, shadow work consciously, it goes through the different stages, and then you can kind of gauge where you are in your own shadow work process. But stage one is going to be self-reflection and awareness. We can't fix anything if we're not aware of it. So you're going to have some self-reflection about your life or this particular situation. um, as well as some awareness as to something's off with this. This doesn't resonate with my spirit self, my higher self, or maybe it does. It did at one point, but it doesn't anymore. So that's step one is self reflection and awareness, being aware. Number two is going to be recognition and acknowledgement. Sometimes we could be aware, but be like, oh, it's not a problem. I'm good. I'm gonna keep staying. I'm gonna be like that. And when you recognize and acknowledge the fact that there's an issue here, something skewed, something from a childhood type thing. Maybe it's an inner child wound. I need to, figure out, delve deeper into that. You're acknowledging that there's something there and a part of yourself that is causing you to behave in certain ways and have certain thoughts. Step three is going to be, or stage three is going to be understanding and compassion. That's a whole nother level. And that's like now you get into the other side, understanding and compassion. For people who've gone through sexual trauma, physical abuse, it's hard to forgive. It's really hard to forgive. And that lack of forgiveness in itself could be the thing that's holding you back and stuck in that shadow place and that place of hurt and trauma. But when you are able to understand and have compassion for yourself, the person that went through that, the little child that went through that, but as well as the sick person who did that, recognizing that who knows what happened to that person. Most of the time, hurt people hurt people. So most of the time, these people have experienced trauma themselves. So being able to come to a place of understanding and compassion that allows you forgiveness for yourself, that's a big one. And it takes stages. You're not going to be able to forgive that person right away. That's why it's like, depending on where you are in the shadow work, some of this stuff could take a long time, but being able to get to a place of forgiveness for yourself and then understanding and compassion will give you a sense of freedom and release from that shadow self and those patterns as well. And then let's see, I always have to look at it myself. Let's see, stage four is integration. Yes, learning how to integrate those parts of yourself that we can't go back and change the past. This happened. It is what it is. We don't have to live in the trauma anymore. How do we move forward and incorporate that thing that happened to you being a result of who you are today? Because everything on the journey shaped and built us the way that we are today. And sometimes if bad things happen to us, particularly as kids, a lot of time that's not your fault. But a lot of times bad stuff happens to us as adults, and it's a direct result of our choices and decisions. And so those were our lessons a lot of times. So how do we integrate that and move forward without, like I said, staying stuck in this perpetual state of unhealedness? And then, of course, stage five is going to be transformation and growth. Like, who's trying to get there? Like that's where we're trying to be. Because that affects everything. That affects how we treat ourselves, how we treat one another, the types of relationships that we have, how we treat our children. We have to learn from how to live from a healed perspective now, and that's going to open up the door for a variety of different things. And then, of course, this has he showed you the shadow work journal that goes with it. Because once again, your girl is all about the work. I don't believe in just selling little things out here that you got to go through the work if you really want to have the experience of it. So the journal is going to allow you to write down your reflections and what's coming up for you, what you're experiencing. And I would also recommend, bringing your ancestors and spirit guides in with that too, because they're going to assist you on the journey. So definitely check that out on Amazon. Thank you, Knowledge, for showing that.
Now you had a physical copy in your hand, okay?
I
You had a
do.
physical.
It's
You had a
real.
physical copy, okay? We need to see them. All right.
Yes.
All
Yes.
right.
I try to make
Okay.
it. There we go. I got to move slowly. One is like peekaboo.
Right.
And you know how it is when you like looking in the mirror and you trying to, for some reason, it's difficult to make I don't know, like when it's left to right. It's hard to describe. You try to look at something in the mirror, you try to move it, make center it, and you be going to the left and the right, whatever. That's the kind of stuff that go through my head.
So three people who watch this and they comment if they comment on yours, if they comment on mine, because we streaming everywhere. Okay, so if they comment,
Yes.
watched it, loved it, if they subscribe, we will pick
Awesome.
three people, and three people will get both of them books. Okay, both of them.
Thank you.
How they say that?
Appreciate that.
Both of them. Both
Both
of
of
them.
them.
Both are.
That's what's up.
Um,
I love
you have
it.
to
Yeah, I got it. I got it
subscribe.
streaming on mine too.
Yeah. So if you subscribe here or over there with God is Z, you understand what I'm saying? Because I'm about to ask her right about that, holistic spiritual AF podcast in 1 second. So if you are subscribed here or subscribed there, we're gonna pick you. Okay, we're gonna pick you. If you comment, if you ain't comment, if you didn't like, if you didn't do none of that, I don't know, fam. All right, apply yourself, Smokey. We're gonna pick you and find a way to get these books to you. So 3 people will get both books. All right. All right. So this wonderful voice that you have, that you be sharing all of these gifts with and stuff. You understand what I'm saying? You said you were singing since you was 1.5, right? One and a
Hmm.
half, 1 3/4, all right, 1 inch, right? Uh, that speaking voice that you have, that intuitive speak voice that you harnessed it, you put it all together, and you gave us this awakening, right? You gave us this resurrection called this podcast. I need to know some behind the scenes stuff. What was the catalyst for you to say, hey, about to do this podcast, y'all? You understand? And let's get into the deeps and the depths of podcasting life, okay? And some of
Yeah,
these amazing guests you had on.
absolutely. So I know you won't believe it, but in 2022, my ancestors told me to start a podcast. Like I'm
Mm,
learning to be obedient when they say do things, And so like I'm just alone and I'm doing me and I hear start a podcast just like that. And I'm like, start a podcast? Like really? Like that was not my idea. And I was like, okay, so what are we going to talk about? And what's the name going to be? And the name Holistic and Spiritual AF came out like immediately, and they were like, what do you always talk about? Who are you? And so I was like, yeah. Well, they like, what can you talk about without nonstop, like all day, every day? And what do you talk about nonstop every day? So I was like, okay, I'll talk about spirituality. I'll talk about spiritual development, shadow work, those different things. And so I started the podcast back in 22. I think it was September of 22. It was started out as a personal experience podcast. At that time, about 22, yep, right around that time, a couple months at end, I was just finalizing some of the major part of my healing journey out of the whole total journey. Because throughout this, on a deeper metaphysical level, where the planets were for the last 14 years, starting where when my husband transitioned, I'm coming out of a cycle and into a new 14-year cycle, which a lot of us are as we enter in the age of Aquarius in 25. So that one was rough. And this one is going to be so different and so amazing. And I'll also be setting myself up for the following 14-year cycle. So I was just at the last end part of one major piece of shadow work, and I had finally I mastered it. I was able to heal it, and I was on the beginning when they told me to start it. So I was able to do the personal experience podcast like you described, speaking about particular traumas. I get more vulnerable inside of my podcast about specific things that have happened to me, but the way that I speak about it is from a healed perspective. And so I started doing that, and of course talk about my ancestors, how to connect with them and different things like that. And a lot of people was really like what you described earlier. They were really impressed with the fact that I could be so vulnerable, particularly my people. Because let's face it, we have a problem being expressant about different things. We keep secrets, we got a lot of unhealed patterns that keep us sick. And a lot of times, a lot of people don't have the opportunity to get therapy. I'm a big proponent of therapy if you can get therapy. I am not a licensed therapist. I'm just somebody who went through a lot of trauma and was able to get to the other side. So I tell people all the time that particular people who when they find out what I do, they're like, "Oh, well, are you a therapist? You can't do that." I'm listening. I said, a lot of my people can't get a therapist. Okay. What does that mean? They don't deserve the ability to be able to heal and grow. And so I give my experience about what happened to me, how it happened, the different types of practices and things like that. So fast forward to, I think it was maybe 3 or 4 months ago. Yeah, somewhere around there. I hear my ancestors say, okay, it's time to build community. It's time to start connecting with other light workers out there, other people in the community who are doing the work, all in preparation for where we're going as a planet, where we're moving into. It's time to raise the consciousness of everybody, because everybody's experiencing awakening. Some people are already woke and conscious, and aware. Some people are just now starting to wake up to different things. We're on all different levels, depending on where we are on the soul's journey. And so once again, I let spirit lead me a lot, and a lot of different things that I do. And so next thing you know, it starts happening. I have one guest on there, in September. I had Monique on there, and her story was very unique, as she talked about being a ordained minister from the Christian faith, and having her spiritual awakening in the middle of that, and what that was like, and how she came to the other side of spiritual development. I had, let's see, who else did I have in there? Rakita, oh, excuse me, girl. Rakita Lillard Brown. She's actually the retreat facilitator of Holistry, which is a retreat that she has for Black women and women of color. And that's an amazing thing that she's doing, where she's bringing these different types of wellness spaces that allows these women to heal. Particularly Black women, we go through a lot, we take on a lot, we have to be strong all the time, and we need places, safe spaces, where we feel comfortable to be able to cry and be real and be ourselves, and non-judgment spaces. So she gives her experience with that as well. I also did a divine feminine healing with Maria Kowalski. She's actually local in Miami. She is a lady from Venezuela, and she does a lot of womb healing and divine feminine healing. She's very connected to Osset. We know as Osset. She says Isis, and so she's also doing a lot of powerful things as well. And the most recent one, which for some reason I have to figure out what's going on with that. But that one was actually released yesterday. I don't know why it's not on YouTube. It is available on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Amazon, and all those things. I just really appreciated this young lady, Renee Jennings, and she is a herbalist. She does tarot. She does alchemy. She talks about her spiritual awakening, how she's actively healing generational trauma with her young boys, and her story's so raw. She reminds me of a little sis me, and she's just so raw with her experience, and it's just like what you described, and it's like, yes, this is the healer's walk right here, because like I said, most healers that I know have had to go through quite a bit, because they can withstand it, even though it seems like you can't sometimes. So she's sharing that, and I just really appreciate her story, because she's showing me a different new age that is coming up, and I love it. So I got some really good people coming up. Next month is November. It's dedicated to the brothers, because the brothers are doing the work, y'all. The brothers are doing the work, honey. I got two brothers in November that you must tune in. Okay. These guys are experts. One guy was so full of information and knowledge. We have to have a part two in 25. So those two are coming. I've got another one who's a naturopathic doctor. Me and her, we hit it off, like definitely like spirit connections. And so the more that I continue to do these, and I allow the ancestors to make these connections, what it feels like is, it feels like reconnected on a spirit level, with other spirit beings from other lifetimes. Like, we know each other already, like we reconnected now, like this right here. That's why I said your timing was perfect. Everything was perfect. And these interviews have been nothing short of, like, divinely guided and connected. So definitely tune into that podcast if you get a chance to, if or if that's your thing. So we talk about a lot of ancestral healing over there, spiritual development, metaphysics, different types of modalities. And something else I'm doing is starting to have master classes as well because they got me doing that. Because they like, this is what you do. Get out there. They like, you know who you are. Get on out there. So I did the Raise Your Frequency master class in September. And once again, we works. Okay. So I had a community and we did a 30-day challenge. We're almost at the end because people want to manifest stuff. You know, you hear people say, oh, you can manifest this and this ain't what it's manifest. Guess what? You're about to go through some shadow work. You are about to get into the work as to what is blocking you from getting what you think you want and what you need. And some things may change and your wants and desires may change along the way. So that's what's happening. And I must say in about 3 weeks, next week will be our last week. Over half of the stuff on my affirmation list is coming into fruition or already happened. And it took me changing the frequency in my DNA because I go through it with you guys. You know, I don't just send y'all out there to go do it. I have to continuously be working too, you know. So, um, yeah, next class is coming up November the 13th, and we're going through a journey through the chakras. That's going to be fun, y'all. A lot of times these are free master classes as well. So,
November 13th. Okay.
November 13th, you going to be there, Knowledge?
Yes, I'm be up in the place. That is my god sister's birthday too. Okay,
I see.
11
You know it's
13. All
fine.
right. You understand what I'm saying? Be shocking chakras up in there, all right?
That's right. Y'all gonna be coming out there buzzing.
But okay. Did y'all hear free? Did y'all hear that?
It's
Y'all ain't,
free.
y'all ain't hear that. Y'all heard
It's free.
free.
Just bringing the knowledge, and I'll end up in yeah. Just if you connect with me, that link will be put up inside of my Beacons AI link. So yeah, just stay connected, and we'll make you'll know what's going on with me.
What's up. I'm telling you, this is epic. It's so epic. And she only shared a drop in the bucket about all of the stuff she actually really does because she like really, really dope, dope, dope. Really, really dope, dope, dope. Really, really dope, dope, dope. So I'm gonna ask her to explain a little bit of the services that she actually offers and provides and some of that work that she does with people. So if you could share some of those services that you provide to the listeners, because
Sure.
they like, oh, that lady deep. You know what I'm saying? She deep, deep. Okay, I didn't know
You
we
are
was going
you
to go through
deep
all of
too.
that.
You deep too, like honestly, it's stuff is still being formulated. I talked about the classes. The classes will be coming like every other month right now. That fits in with my schedule pretty good. But I do also offer spiritual consultations. I offer 30-minute sessions as well as an hour. And really everything that I do is energy and intuition connected. So it really, each session is individual to the individual. So whatever it is that you're wanting to look into, get more information, your spirit will know. If you need this, that's available. Like I said, hook on that beacons link, and that has access to my shop, Goddess Expressions. So definitely you can get linked up there. That's what I'm doing right now. I'm thinking about. That's why I'm like, am I gonna work, y'all, or are we doing this? Like they like, okay, but you could do this too. They trying to really put me out there, but I'm thinking about possibly adding in some sort of collective Reiki sessions as well. I'm not sure how that'll come about. Maybe that'll be some sort of a live of some sort. That way we can get a lot of people in at once. But definitely stay tuned. 2025 is going to be a lot of different things coming about. And I also do tarot readings as well. But if you get the spiritual consultation, a lot of times that incorporates a tarot reading as well inside of there. But most of what I do is intuition based. And also, I get a lot of information and data from the conversation I have with the person.
I'm talking about, okay? Y'all hear them bars? Okay. So we can get our life. Okay. We can get our life. We can get our chakras aligned. We can get some books. We could begin the shadow work. We got a journal. We could write stuff down in. All right. So if we got tears on the paper, if it needs to be some tears on the paper, get the tears on the paper. If you need a consultation because you need some guidance, you out here a little wayward, bumping your head for no reason. All of that. Okay. She is here. She is here to help us. All right. She whispers. She don't grab us up by the collar neck no more. She ain't the gangster no more. She still got some gangster in her. So she don't pull us
Sweet.
out of this shadow. She just whispers out of the shadow, like, come on, it's all right.
Yeah.
I understand. Yeah, I know. Don't make me come in there and get you. But come on. You
Them
understand.
lessons gonna come get you.
Yes, yes,
Your
yes,
ancestors
yes,
gonna come
yes.
get you.
So you've been here this entire time, and I know that our collective ancestors got a message for us because I seen you like, wait, we're gonna get there at the end. All right, we're gonna get there at the end. So, if there's one thing you could share with us, we going to the end of the calendar year 2024, going into 2025, and you mentioned the age of Aquarius. For those who not hip, they worried about Project 2025 and not the age of Aquarius. So, if you could help us out a little bit with some of the ancient wisdom and something that you're looking forward to in addition leaving this calendar year 2024 going into 2025.
Absolutely. Now I will say this. I am everybody on the planet has a purpose. Everybody has spiritual gifts. I actually have a podcast, a solo one coming up, talking about our spiritual gifts and how to activate those. So everybody is has something inside of them. We are very powerful beings. Okay, we haven't even tapped even the surface of who and what we're capable of. Now, for some people, they're good with astrology. They can tell you where things are inside of the things. I'm very claircognizant. I just know. Okay, so I know because I receive downloads, and I have ancestors that are bloodline ancestors, lineage ancestors. I have spirit guides that are, A1 since day ones from past lifetimes, but I also have intergalactic ancestors as well that I am now coming into getting to know who I know have always been there. So the information that I've received and that is really circulating around very openly now on social media about the age of Aquarius, to me what that means is that certain planets are aligning in a certain way. So previously the planets were aligned, certain planets were aligned in a different way that had us, a lot of us asleep and able to be kind of under this bondage of, this system and this structure and what was considered at one time the New World Order, which is now coming to an end and energetically. So I would say, and I've always said this, think about Star Wars, think about spiritual warfare. If we are spirits having a human experience, and I know most of us did not choose to have to go to work every day just to pay for water and stuff like that, and then to be fed GMO and to be killing everything on the planet and to be the animals, eating them up and to be stealing and killing and wars, that's not our design. And not only is that not our design, we're not built like that as spirit beings. And so, in order for us to have been under this kind of confinement and conditioning and programming, that's a good word, programming, things had to be aligned in the hands of darker entities that have been running the show for a while. So now, as we move into this age of Aquarius, um, different planets are aligning to restore ownership, energetic ownership, back to its rightful owners. And that's where we all come in. We all come in, and as we start to awaken in different ways, where it's like, wait a minute, people start to notice they getting up like, wait a minute, this isn't right. There's something off with this. I need to. And so people feel compelled and drawn to reconnect more with their spirit self. Not everybody. Some people will stay stuck in a three-dimensional reality. The three-dimensional reality is going to be very physical. That's that going to work. You get tired. You eat too much. You everything is on the physicality of things. Whereas the fifth dimensional reality that we're moving into is going to be more higher frequency, high vibrating, as well as more internal and more spiritual. So it's going to be very important that while we are moving into this higher consciousness as a planet and humanity, for us to really reconnect with ourselves on that level. So a lot of the things that used to matter, like, oh, I don't know, all the how the big houses, the cars, the celebrities, we can see it already happening. Like you can see the whole Diddy thing going on. You can see the whole election thing is like a freaking, circus and a joke right now. And people are becoming more awakened to what we used to fall for. So as we move into this age of Aquarius, certain people on the planet who have been doing the work a little bit longer than others, just to kind of prepare for this point, are going to be helping others who are just now awakening, like, hey, wait a minute, what's been going on? Something doesn't feel right. And we're going to be helping to assist each other to raise the consciousness of the planet to a more heart centered space, energy of love and heart centeredness. So there's going to be a lot of healing going on. You're going to see things switching from the division that has been keeping us held hostage and bondage for so long of she's better than me, you white, you black, you not this, you can't do that, and you were a slave, and all of these different things are going to, they're going to be low frequency level stuff like that. When you raise to a five-dimensional reality, we don't think like that. We think in more spirit, we know better. And so we're thinking about more higher vibratory things. And so that's what I know to be happening, and that's what's happening for me. And that journey that I described all the way up until this point, I was born for this. And I say that anybody that's on the planet right now at this time, this is an amazing time to be on the planet right now, to be a spirit return. And we have something to do to contribute to raising the consciousness of the collective. It's not about she's better than she's a goddess and he's knowledge and this person's got 20 years of knowledge, and it's not about that. Like we're all of those types of, that's low vibrational stuff. So we're moving into coming together as humanity to create a new world order, so that we can rightfully restore things back to the way that it was when it was in the hands of the indigenous ones, and some of these higher vibratory beings who have come back to this planet and are here, to help us raise this consciousness as well. Hopefully that made sense. It wasn't astrological, but it was downloadable, knowledgeable. It's like,
And when you make, you said it and it didn't make sense, I promise you, I'd have been like, "That ain't make sense. Could you explain that further to me?" You said it.
yeah,
Thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. All right, all right, all right, all
mhm.
right. That's okay.
All right.
I loved it. Thank you. Thank you very much.
You're so
Thank you.
welcome.
Thank
I
you
mean, I
very
think,
much. Thank
yeah,
you.
and I think that's layman's terms, like you said too. And if I had to try to explain, where Pluto is and all, then it would have sounded like not me. Because you know why? I'm on the healing side. I'm on the healing team. Now if
Right.
you ask me about some qigong and how to lay hands a certain way and how to do distant healing, then I could probably break that down in a probably more technical way.
So you was talking about that earlier, but when you came back to the services, you ain't talk about that. You ain't talk about
Because you know
yo.
why?
You ain't talk about that.
I tell you
Okay.
what. You want a session? You get a session, and then you describe what happens for you,
What happened?
because it's
I'm
hard to
I'm gonna
describe
say
something that you
yo,
haven't
like yo.
experienced.
got- I'm minding my business, fam. That's what happened. You want to know what happened in the session? Get your own session. All right.
That's right.
Get your own session. But I give them like some highlights and stuff. Okay, that's
Yeah, no
beautiful.
doubt.
Yes. Yes. So the amazing, multifaceted, multi-talented mastermind It's here. She gave us some of her time. She circulated some of that beautiful time and energy with us
Thank you.
today. Okay, she gave us some insights. She gave us some energy. She gave us some love. She gave us some straightening. Okay, everything at one time. She gave it all in love, all in honor, and all from a healed place. So, God Z, do you have any final words, any final thoughts, shout outs, acknowledgments, anything? And tell people where to find you, how to connect with you. Some podcasting folks was watching. It was like, oh, we need to interview her. Okay, da 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 da
Mhm.
da 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 da. So let the folks know what's going on with you, where they can find you, and all of that, and then where they could get the books and where they can leverage your services, all of that.
Awesome. Well, first and foremost, thank you so much for having me on the show. It has been an honor to connect with you, spirit to spirit. It's like, oh, I love this. Like, this is what I'm here for. Like, that's what I was saying the other day. I was like, yes, we coming to the other side. I love it. So this is what I live for, is connecting with people spirit to spirit. And that's what you allow me to do today, as well as with your audience. You shared your audience with me. So thank you so much for that. So closing remarks would be is to just, I'm going to say meditate. That's been coming up pretty heavy for me. If you meditate, not just like 5 minutes a day, like 5 minutes a day, challenge yourself with that, and try to meditate like 5 minutes a day and allow you to start, you know, being more in tune with your inner body, to start hearing better, to start hearing what your ancestors are saying, your spirit guides are saying. Let that be your guide and your compass about what direction to go in next. If you try that for like 30 days, I promise you, it's going to make such a huge difference in your world. And it's also going to help you to tap into your own intuition. So you start to work with that and start to develop those spiritual gifts and abilities and skills. So that's like an easy place that everybody can start from. So meditation, 5 minutes a day. And if you say, well, I can't sit still, in the beginning, it's going to be like that. You know what I'm saying? You guys simply got to practice. And if you practice it, then you'll see where you were 3 days ago compared to today is a lot better and different. So don't give up on yourself. It's your own healing and journey. And then, of course, let's see, I'm all out there in them social media streets, So I'm on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, all at Holistic and Spiritual AF, and that's Ann spelled out. My podcast is also Holistic and Spiritual AF podcast, available on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Amazon, I believe. I think Amazon charging though. I noticed that.
Raggedy
Um,
stuff,
I know.
right?
I was like, don't nobody even go to Amazon. Y'all need to
Mm,
cut it out.
right?
So most of y'all on Apple or Spotify, go over there. I just recently got on Samsung podcasts as well, and some other like different types of places. So I'm all over the place with that, and YouTube as well. Make sure you subscribe to me if you like to read. If you're somebody who likes to read, check out my newsletter on Substack. I have lots of, it's kind of like a blog, newsletter slash journal, where I get a little more intimate as far as, here, scroll down to Substack if you want to click on it. I'm sorry. You were almost there. It's right up under, there it is, Substack to newsletter, holistic and spiritual AF. Yeah, that right there, that Substack. Yeah, so you will have to do that. You can say no thanks under the subscribe box. Uh-oh, look at you. Now you done put your thing out there, and you could just do none for now. We don't want to see your card information. You can do the
Yeah,
free
tell them
account.
to mind their business. Yeah, mind your business. They was trying to. Somebody was trying to get it. The Bitcoin scammers was like, "Yes, we got them." Ha!
They was like, this is too easy. But yeah, anyway, I put like different stuff out there. I put the podcast over there too as well, but it usually comes out a lot later than the other ones. But yeah, it's been a real journey with the writing. And I didn't get to tell you about that because you did ask me about like, was I doing any other, what else was happening with the writing.
Yes,
So I am in the process of writing a book now. This one's going to take a
man,
while, called My Ancestors Raised Me. Like, of course, that would be
man,
the title,
yes,
right? My
Yes, of
ancestors
course.
raised me. They really did. And I pay homage to my ancestors in every way that I possibly can. And I am because they were Ubuntu. And as I elevate, they elevated. And so, yeah, check out my store, Goddess Expressions. We've got teas over there.
Okay.
You can get the consultations from here, or you could also message me too as well. We can make it happen on any of those social medias um, channels. So yeah, I try to market and be out there as well. And yeah, and I truly believe that whenever a person is ready and whenever we're supposed to connect on that level like that, then we will. Like that's it. That's how it is. I don't put the pressure anymore because you'll know if you're using your spiritual gifts and you're enhancing your intuition, you gonna know. Like you're gonna be like, I need to do this, and then you may brush it off, and it's just gonna keep coming up and keep coming up and resurfacing. So definitely, when the time is right, I hope to see some of you out there. And yeah, thank you again, Knowledge.
Yes. Okay. So one more time, if you subscribed here and subscribe to Goddess Z, and you left a comment here, and you left a comment over there with Goddess Z, okay, we're gonna choose 3 people, and 3 people will be contacted for you to be able to get those books. Okay, both of them books. All right. Get your shadow together and get your journal together. Okay, you get your journaling and
That's
shadowing your
right.
journal and journaling your shadow. Okay, because it's a little work. All right,
That's
but only
right.
do it if that's what you want. If that ain't what you want, fam, like look,
That's why I say enjoy the conversation and keep it
right,
pushing.
right, because you start shadowing and journaling your shadow, and your shadow start journaling you and shadowing you. Like, all right, fam, all right, I ain't just a reflection when the light is out. Yeah, I don't go away when the dark is there. You come into
No,
my
that's
world
right.
now. All right. Oh, you thought darkness was your ally. You know what I'm saying? So yes, yes. All right. So thank you, Goddess. Thank you for your time. Thank you for your love.
Thank
Thank
you.
you for your spiritual currency. Thank you for your ancestral veneration. I pray that your ancestors, your spirit guides, and the Most High continue to order your steps righteously and abundantly. And this is your
Shay.
other home, okay? Not
That's
other,
right.
other, your other home, okay? Your
That
other
was
home.
very Jersey.
When, yes, I'm telling you, you know what I'm saying? So
Your other
whenever you
home.
want to
That was
come
very
here
Jersey.
to your other home, okay, and show some love and share some experience with us.
Absolutely. You
We
know
would
it.
love to have you, okay? We would love to have you. All right.
Absolutely. And of course, you got to be on my podcast too. So y'all definitely got to
Mm,
follow so y'all know that when we do
mm,
this, that we got to hear
mm.
knowledge. He over there, dropping bars too, and he's got a slick tongue and he witty. So I'm looking forward to that. So you got to come and visit us at Holistic and Spiritual AF because I know that you got some knowledge to bring.
Got a little something, something. I got one in the possible. I got one in the possible. Thank you again. We love you. We
Thank you.
support you. All right.
Love y'all
It's
too.
just it's winning season. Okay.
That's right. Let's do this. Like this is what we here
Together.
for. Yes.
Together.
I'm
Together.
excited.
Not together. Together. All right.
Together.
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 All right, y'all. We out. Peace.
Peace.